It all began for me in the customer service department. When I came to work for MANNATECH in 1995, I had no idea how my life story would be interwoven with the story of MANNATECH. And what a journey it's been. So I invite you to join me for a quick look at this incredible story through the eyes of our founder, Sam Castor. And believe me, in this story, the best is yet to come.
I believe that there's a deep desire within the heart of everyone to have their life count for a purpose bigger than themselves. That's how it was for us in 1993. We prayed for God to bring us something that we could do that would bring honor to Him and truly bring value into the lives of others.
God laid on my heart that we would birth a Joseph Company, a company of provision that would touch the lives of people in all nations.
At first, we didn't know what that meant. But what we did know is that there was a sense of destiny, a special calling for us in the venture we were starting. We just had no idea how it would unfold. During this time, I'd been consulting with a group of healthcare professionals who'd been active in launching a new integrative approach to their patient care. This was in response to a growing consumer demand and the volume of evidence that was clearly showing better patient outcomes. I believe that this trend was just beginning and could become dynamic in its continued growth. I founded MANNATECH to help meet this explosive new market demand. We were committed to bring to market the very best science-based products. The healthcare professionals I worked with encouraged me to examine a new body of science that had been published on the discovery of the beneficial ingredient in aloe vera. There was a long history of health applications around aloe vera, but there had been a lack of solid science. Aloe vera gel had shown to be quite unstable in its raw form. A research scientist named Dr. Bill McAnally was able to stabilize the gel and discovered the beneficial ingredient was a long-chain carbohydrate containing a sugar called mannose. His company called this new product Mannapole, and they had already received over 100 international patents on this new product. Dr. McAnally had discovered a true scientific breakthrough, but the company had failed miserably in their efforts to retail this product. As a result, we were able to negotiate an exclusive agreement to market Mannapole as a dietary supplement in 1994. This was the industry's first stabilized aloe vera product and served as the core technology we used to launch our company. And then we held on for an incredible ride that blew past everyone's expectations.
Talk about mighty things coming from small beginnings. We began to assemble a group of salespeople who really shouldn't be called salespeople. They came to realize that somehow they had been given something that was having an incredible impact on the quality of life of their family and friends, and wild horses couldn't hold them back.
You know, when I began seeing the impact of this product, I just knew in my heart this was going to play a key role in fulfilling the vision we had been given as a company of provision. Shortly after we began MANNATECH, Dr. McAnally came to me and said, well, I jumped at that offer and immediately hired him as our Chief Science Officer. You know, we both realized that our destinies had been joined together for a reason.
There always seemed to be things that happened that you wouldn't expect that were just right at the moment. It's almost like we're guided. This is a company of destiny, and what is needed shows up at the right time.
There are a lot of meanwhiles in the MANNATECH story. You know, those times where it seemed like we had come to an insurmountable roadblock. But meanwhile, God had been working in the background all along, moving the pieces around without us knowing it. And then the answer shows up in an unexpected way. We often refer to the Jewish word bashur, that means meant to be, to help give perspective to these stories. Dr. McAnally also believed that there was a higher purpose at work here, that our lives and our work were being tied together for a reason. He tells the story of coming to a dead end in the carbohydrate research he was doing and simply crying out, "I need some help, Lord, if this technology is supposed to go forward." Well, shortly after that, a UPS driver stopped at his office on a Saturday morning in the middle of a driving rainstorm and brings this researcher who had been dropped at the wrong location for a job interview. He'd been wandering around out there in the rain looking for a phone. The UPS driver had picked him up and dropped him at Dr. McAnally's lab to see if he could use his phone. You know, in God's providence, Dr. McAnally discovered in a brief conversation that this man was one of the few people in the world with training in carbohydrate structuring that could provide the exact skills he needed. Well, he hired him on the spot and the project was able to be completed. By the early 1990s, the new science of glycobiology was beginning to explode. Glycobiology is the study of the biological function of glycoproteins, which are proteins containing very specific sugar molecules. Science was showing that these unique sugars are like letters of the alphabet that are used by our cells to make cellular words. They are necessary for the proper structure and function of every cell in the body and are critical to a properly functioning immune system. This research wasn't lost on the scientific and medical communities, who had begun to invest huge sums of money in the development of new sugar-based drugs. In 1996, Dr. McAnally came to my office carrying a copy of Harper's Biochemistry and showed me the chapter on glycoprotein synthesis that identified that there are 8 sugars required to make cellular words. He pointed out that mannose, the predominant sugar in aloe vera, was the primary sugar in these structures. Science had shown that when any of these sugars are missing from the surface of cells, immune functions are compromised and poor health conditions are allowed to proliferate. Dr. McAnally said, "Here's my hypothesis. No one knows why sugars are missing, but only 2 are common in our typical diet. If we provided them all in a dietary supplement, I think we'd see better results than we've seen from aloe vera alone." Well, we immediately began our research for plant sources of these unique sugars and filed patents on a new composition we developed called 앰브로토스 complex. The impact was immediate. What started as a hypothesis and developed into a product unleashed something that we could only watch in amazement. Although we didn't fully understand it at the time, we had developed and been entrusted with a technology that was way ahead of its time. What we really had discovered was an entirely new category of nutrients that would help lead a global movement towards an integrative approach to modern healthcare. We really wouldn't understand all that for a few years, and perhaps still don't realize its full potential. But I really believe that God had given us a gift that would help us fulfill the original calling that had been placed on our company.
In my large naturopathic clinic, I had researched thousands of products over the years. So I was highly skeptical, maybe even outright resistant at first. But when I realized what was going on here, well, I simply had to be a part of it.
Those early 앰브로토스 years were incredible. People's lives were being changed in several ways, and events were packed. In fact, our Calgary All-Star Convention in 1997 sold out, and MANNATECH had to schedule 2 conventions back-to-back that weekend to meet the demand. People would leave these events changed because the information would move from their heads to their hearts.
The growth of the company and so many of the leaders in the field was spectacular. And it wasn't growth driven by some breakthrough business strategy. It was driven by giving, by people following their hearts. As people saw the results of these products, they felt compelled to give to people in need.
Because of this sense of destiny and the overwhelming consumer response to 앰브로토스 complex, we developed a unique company culture that was almost the antithesis to the direct selling industry. The typical direct selling model focused on a home-based business opportunity. At MANNATECH, the focus was primarily on the product and its benefits. The business aspect just seemed to follow. We were quickly developing a culture centered on giving with a true sense of social responsibility. We opened up several new countries in the next few years, but something even more significant was happening. Well, in the late 1990s, we met a caregiver from an orphanage in Romania. She shared a heartbreaking story about how poor nutrition was so devastating to the lives of their children. And you know, at that very moment, I knew that our destiny was tied directly to the caregiver's challenge.
Our hearts have always been for orphans. We've been blessed with 5 adopted children of our own and knew it was our calling to help. We offered to supply enough nutritional support for the following year.
Over the next year, the impact of our products on the quality of life of these kids was unbelievable. As we shared this with our associates, their response was immediate and huge. Our associates have always been givers, and as we established Manna Relief as a not-for-profit organization to distribute these products to children in need, they came aboard in droves. And we were able to go to orphanages in over 80 countries around the world in just the next 10 years. I mean, it was like God had opened up the floodgates, and MANNATECH began experiencing tremendous growth that carried forward for several years. We were receiving recognition and awards from the world of business, being invited to scientific symposiums. I mean, things were rocking.
Well, this company's a rockin', don't bother knockin'. Yeah, this company's a rockin', don't bother knockin'. MANNATECH is rockin' it, don't bother, come on in. Oh yeah, look up here. Yeah, MANNATECH is rockin', don't bother, come on in.
Meanwhile, significant storm clouds were appearing on the horizon. I believe that when you have a ministry component to your business, there will be spiritual battles. We began showing up on the radar screen of powerful vested interest groups in glycobiology and the established scientific community. Science had shown that these sugars were missing from our cells, resulting in compromised health. The issue was what to do about it. And here's where the battle lines formed. The pharmaceutical industry wanted to fill the gaps with synthetic sugar-based drugs. Our solution was the dietary supplementation of plant-based natural sugars. And with potentially billions of dollars of revenue at stake, the scientists investing in synthetic sugar products began to publicly ridicule Dr. McAnally's hypothesis on dietary sugar intervention. They claimed this theory was bogus and even challenged the overwhelming consumer response to 앰브로토스. The press was quick to report on their accusations, and our business began to suffer. We found ourselves in the fight of our lives. By 2007, the stakes were raised even higher. It was the perfect storm, and we were smack in the middle of its path. Meanwhile, there were some more meanwhiles that gradually came to our awareness. And as usual, some of these were born in the midst of difficulty and uncertainty. During all this conflict, Dr. McAnally announced his plans to retire. And my first thoughts were, how are we going to replace him? And who in their right mind would want to step into this environment? Enter Dr. Rob Sinnott. Controversy didn't even faze this guy. And he would be the man to take us to the next level.
I was aware of MANNATECH's work in nutritional glycobiology and the obvious controversy surrounding it. As a scientist, I knew that controversy is part of the discovery process, especially when that discovery challenges conventional wisdom or status quo. MANNATECH had clearly broken new ground with the discovery of glyconutrients. I knew the only way to get past the controversy was to do the science that would silence the critics. We have now invested over $20 million in the last 5 years in new research to help validate our position. In doing so, we have become the world leader in the new field of nutritional glycobiology. Besides supporting and leading this ongoing glyconutrient research, I saw the huge opportunity for MANNATECH to become the first company to develop standardized, natural, plant-based vitamins and minerals. I knew I could make a significant contribution in this area. Micronutrient deficiency has become a global epidemic, and the best way to address this issue is to bring to market a whole new standard in vitamin and mineral technology. Up to now, there are basically two broad categories of these products. If you wanted standardized products, you got synthetics. If you wanted natural products, they were non-standardized. You couldn't get both. Well, we were able to pioneer new technology that provided natural plant-based products that were totally standardized. In particular, we introduced MANNATECH's PhytoMatrix product to the world. Using new hydroponic technology that allowed us to provide standardized plant-based minerals in combination with food-source vitamins and phytonutrients for the first time. We believe the cells of the human body are designed to get their nutrition from real food, not synthetic. And so the effectiveness of these new products is truly impressive.
This was really the start of our development of a new strategy for nutritional supplementation that we call Real Food Technology Solutions. This was a huge step for us. We had now created products based on real food ingredients. We were using food to supplement food, and once again, we had no idea the impact that this technology would make on the world. In the meantime, the mandated changes we went through had taken their toll on our company. Business declined, and we struggled as an organization to reestablish that unique culture that had so successfully driven our business in the past. The company tried various traditional business approaches, including new management, but nothing seemed to work. I began spending more and more time at Manna Relief. An article in the New York Times had exposed that malnutrition is linked to between 1/3 and 1/2 of all childhood deaths in the world. Well, overwhelmed by these statistics, I began researching how other not-for-profit organizations were fighting this problem. What I found out was that billions of dollars of enriched grain-based relief food was being sent all over the world to fight hunger. But this strategy wasn't working to combat malnutrition. Relief organizations gradually began to recognize the difference between feeding children and nourishing them. Doctors Without Borders revealed this challenge to the world in a campaign called Food is Not Enough, and called on industry to help find new solutions. Well, this was my epiphany. I realized that we had researched, developed, and patented the real food technology solution that could make a difference. We had the answer. But it still wasn't clear exactly how to connect all the dots. We knew the what and the why, but we weren't quite clear on the how. Then one day I came across an article that reported on the emergence of a new business phenomena called social entrepreneurship. You know, the minute I read the words social entrepreneur, I knew in my heart I had tapped into the solution. That somewhere in that concept was the answer I'd been seeking. I began researching social entrepreneurship and discovered that it was all about changing the world. And that's exactly where I wanted to be. One of the books I read identified 4 keys to a successful social entrepreneurial organization. And I was amazed at how well MANNATECH already matched up. First, you need to identify a global problem that needs addressing. Malnutrition certainly qualifies. In fact, there may be no bigger issue. Second, you need to provide an innovative new solution to that problem. And real food-based technologies offered a revolutionary new approach to addressing malnutrition. Third, you need to tap into the passions of the public. And what stirs the hearts of people more than the needs of children around the world? We'd experienced that through Manna Relief. And fourth, you need to find a way to economically incentivize those who are willing to help perpetuate your mission throughout the world. I knew that the network marketing model of distribution and compensation that we were already using could accomplish that better than any other business strategy. Social entrepreneurship provided the platform I was looking for. We had all the ingredients we needed to succeed, except for a sustainable funding mechanism. Enter the Gift for Real program. It's really a 21st century paradigm for fundraising. It's called donation through consumption, and the model is simple. Every time a consumer purchases one of MANNATECH's core real food technology products to best support their own nutritional needs, MANNATECH makes a donation that can support a child somewhere else in the world. Next, MANNATECH developed a product specifically for Manna Relief called PhytoBlend Powder, using the ingredients in our PhytoMatrix vitamin mineral product. By mixing PhytoBlend powder into any food, you can turn whatever a child eats into the most nourishing thing that they will probably ever eat. Our goal is to link millions of consumers around the world to the nutritional needs of millions of malnourished children.
A couple things that make MANNATECH so unique would be one, 앰브로토스. There's nothing like it on the planet, and it is absolutely life-changing. People need it. But I think the other thing that makes it so unique is a company with heart, a company that has so much integrity as far as their science, their leadership, their vision, their heart, their mission of wiping out malnutrition.
We don't know the future, but I believe that there are millions of people who would love to be a part of this solution. For some, that will mean nourishing a child by simply nourishing themselves. For others, our model of social entrepreneurship will offer a new financial opportunity for doing well by doing good. But all of us get to be part of the gratifying experience of changing the lives of the world's most vulnerable children. Once we started the donation process through Gift for Real, we saw an immediate impact. In Mexico, working with former President Vicente Fox and his wife, we began receiving the heartwarming feedback from the caregivers of over 5,000 orphans we were able to support. The quality of life changes were obvious, and all of us at MANNATECH realized that this was just a glimpse of what was to come. MANNATECH has been an incredible walk of faith, but I feel like our story is just beginning. This is what's clear to me.
From customer care rep to senior vice president of North America for MANNATECH, it's truly been an incredible journey for me. And I know there are thousands of you whose lives have also become intimately interwoven with MANNATECH. But you know the best part of the story? It's still unfolding, chapter by chapter, page by page, verse by verse. And I know the best is yet to come. So I invite you to join me on this journey and not just read or hear about the MANNATECH story, but become part of it. You know, maybe you are in the next chapter.